Hello, everybody. It's James here. Storytime with Dutch Mantell, episode 108. And let's get into the plug straight away, since Dutch Mantell himself is waving two books in front of my face and yours as well. Tales from a Dirt Road and the World According to Dutch. Two fine books by Dutch Mantell, and his face in between as well. For the video listeners, you can get them on Amazon unsigned if you wish. Links are in the description. But if you want them signed, you go to Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's at gmail.com and make your request there for a good old signed book. Diplomas as well, signed hats as well, available at Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's at gmail.com. And as for me, I've got 2 books as well, Owen, Hart and The Rock. Links are in the description. 2 fine biographies, the best ever written on those 2 particular gentlemen. We're at PWTs, where you can buy official T-shirts and support the show, like this beauty at the bottom of the drawer that I found today as well.
Very good.
As well. And you've recently trimmed your mustache as well. Looking buoyant, looking symmetrical.
Well, you'll find out if you have a long mustache that one side... Now, a lot of people would know this, especially women. One side grows faster than the other side. Is that normal? I guess it is. I don't know. But anyway, every now and then when it gets like this, and it hasn't gotten like this many times during my life or my career, but sometimes you got to take a little clip, because one's maybe this much longer, and when they get just a little bit too long, then it becomes unmanageable. So, and you keep adjusting it. But anyway, books are selling quite well. And I'm getting ready for the other one. I'm still writing chapters about some things that I think need to be written about. But my books, they're not written in like a linear procession. It might have one story from 1985, then the next one is 2012. But it's a bunch of sordid stories of things that's happened to me.
I was going to say, that's pretty impressive considering you wrote the book in like 2010.
I wrote it in 2010, 2011.
There you go.
And actually, I wrote the first book sitting on the beach in California, sitting on the beach in Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go out there and I'd pull my chair up, whatever I could find. And I'd pull the chair up and I would sit down and put a bottle of a Malibu rum next to me. And you've had Malibu, right?
Yeah, it's coconutty. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's great. You can drink it like a wine, really. And I would drink a little bit of that and I would think about, what should I write about today? But I wouldn't actually do any writing out on the beach. I would just get all my ideas in my head, and I'd go back to my to my room, and I had a beautiful little condo on the beach with a great air conditioner. And I would turn the air conditioner, of course, it would be on anyway, but it'd be good and cool, and I would just start writing. And I wrote it in 5 weeks. And then I had 2 friends who agreed, great wrestling fans, to agree to help me edit it. And I would send what I had to them, and then they would correct all my misspellings or, misuse of verbs or whatever. They would send it back to me, and I was ready to go. And then I would send it. And if you go, this is my advice to everyone. If you're going to write a book, don't go out and try to find somebody to print your book on your own. Go to Amazon. It's the best way to do it. Send it to them. And sometimes if they'll look at it and they'll send you back the to-go, it's ready the same day sometimes. But if it needs work, they say, well, you got to do this. But both of mine were sent back to me the first day. And they print your books on demand. Like you can get 1 book printed. You say, print me 1 book. Okay, boom, there it is. Or you can get 100 printed or 1,000 printed. Usually I get about 50 printed at a time. And it's usually, they'll print these books just like this. I'll get it back in about a week, and then they're ready to go out. But if you're going to do anything with the book, highly recommend Amazon. Amazon, are you hearing this? I need a discount. So
Don't we all? Oh, don't we all, Dutch? We all need a discount in this life.
Oh, yeah, we do. So
Well,
what were we talking about?
Well, very quickly, I want to mention a couple more things. Of course, the Storytime with Dutch Mantell Facebook. At some point, it's going to become just the WSI network Facebook. So it's going to be all the Dutch stuff or WSI. Shane Douglas, Stevie Richards, even Don Marko stuff. So it's going to be a big conglomeration of everything under my little network, I guess.
This is on Facebook?
On Facebook, yep.
I didn't even know that.
Yep, we're on Facebook.
I did not know that.
I plug it every week. I need to send you a link.
Well, I still, maybe it hadn't hit my brain. So anyway, but Ed McMahon used to do that every night on the Johnny Carson show. Johnny would say something. He said, I did not know that. But you wouldn't be familiar with that. That was just an American thing.
Well, aside from that, it's been referenced on The Simpsons. So therefore, I do know. If it's been on The Simpsons, I recognize it. I've watched a documentary on Johnny Carson. He was American Masters or something like that. So it was like a PBS thing. It's a great documentary on him. Very interesting.
Yeah, he was great. He was on that show for years and years and years. And he made it look effortless. Like he just went out there and did it.
Yeah, you're right. I am the wrestling equivalent of Johnny Carson.
You think so? Hey.
Oh, I mean, who else is there?
Well, there's Conrad Thompson.
Okay.
Do you like him?
Do you?
The way he presents his show?
Do you? I know you don't.
Well, he actually is the star of every show. He answers sometimes for the guy. And I think, see, where you will shut up and quieten down while the question is being answered, he's jumping in there. And who else do they have? What about Meltzer? You like Meltzer?
Do you know, Dave Meltzer gets a lot of hate. I don't hate Dave Meltzer at all. I think he's far too biased with AEW, but other than that, I don't hate him.
Well, I don't hate him either. I don't hate anybody, but name somebody else.
As far as like big podcasts, there's Jim Cornette's one. There's The Undertaker's one, who I don't know who that guy is, who he talks to.
Have you listened to it?
No. I don't listen to other podcasts. Well, I make the podcast. I don't want to sit around and listen to other people's all day. Do you listen to it? Have you listened to The Undertaker's?
I don't listen to podcasts either.
Okay.
I don't listen to any of them because, hey, I may listen to one. It may sway my opinion.
I know one you should listen to. The Stevie Richards Show on the WSI network, of course, that I would also like to take the opportunity.
I have listened to him.
He's good, isn't he? He is good.
And it's pretty interesting. It really is.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, it's defying all expectations, quite frankly, how well this channel's going at the moment, how well the show's going. Every single Friday after Storytime with Dutch, we're earlier in the day, and then in the evening, my time, and then the US afternoon time, Stevie Richards Show. Brand new episode every Friday, and a few video clips make it onto the YouTube channel every week as well.
So when does our show drop? 8 o'clock in the morning?
8 a.m. in the morning on a Friday. I think Stevie.
And when does Stevie's drop?
Early afternoon. I think it's more or less whenever it gets. On YouTube, it's 3 p.m. Eastern. His drops. So you spend all day with me.
That confuses the shit out of me.
What time zones?
No, all these platforms that we're on. Name up another platform.
iTunes.
Yeah, I've never been to iTunes ever.
You see, they were the original ones. I mean, it's actually Apple Podcasts now. It used to be iTunes Podcasts, whatever it was. But doing audio podcasts doesn't work the way you think it would. Because you have to we're on Podbean, right? And I use Podbean, but there are loads of other companies where you essentially upload your podcast to, and then from there, they then disseminate it to Apple.
However they want.
Yeah, to what formerly Stitcher or Google Podcasts, which apparently neither of them exist anymore, or I don't know if Stitcher does, or iHeartRadio, or Amazon Music or something like that. So you have to upload your podcast to like the centralized like database, and then they disseminate the podcast to all the usual places you would download it. So podcasting's more complicated.
All that complicated.
Really?
I cannot even tell you what you said. And I think most of the people They don't either. I don't guess.
Okay,
I don't know.
I'll do it visually. So my fist is Podbean.
Oh, you want to hit me now? My fist should go right into your nose.
If you don't stop asking questions, no, it's so let's say it's Podbean, and then all of these fingers are iTunes and Spotify and iHeartRadio and whatever it is. And that's how they spread out from there. Apparently, I mean that's the best I can think of to explain.
Oh, that's a great example. I understand it completely now. All right, continue.
Okay,
what are we talking about?
Well, one more email. I want to say questions for Dutch@gmail.com if you want to submit your question for the Ask Dutch Anything episodes that are out every single Tuesday. Now, let's get into the meat of the thing. Why don't we do this for once? We never advertise what we've got coming up. Loads of AEW stuff, loads of WWE stuff. The main event of this podcast is going to be Dutch Mantell's top 10 heels in professional wrestling ever, in response to The Rock claiming that somehow he was the greatest heel as the final boss, which had like a 3-month run. Okay, but before we get into any of the big wrestling news as far as WWE or AEW, Kevin Sullivan on May... What is that? You've got a black case that you've just presented to the camera. Ooh, someone sent you some cigars.
Yes. And I wrote, 3 guys did, and I wrote all their names down, but I can't find it right now. So I'm going to start with this cigar right here.
You need
I don't even know what this is. I think it's a miniature portable aerator, I guess. It keeps the cigars from drying out. You didn't know that, did you?
Well, you chewing on them will keep them drying out.
There we go.
There we go. Very good. Very good. Thank you, fans. We'll have your names either on Tuesday or next Friday when Dutch can find who actually sent them in. But on a more serious note, as I laugh, Kevin Sullivan, on May 12th, 2024, while in Florida for autograph signings, Kevin suffered a devastating accident. He underwent emergency surgery that saved his leg and life, but faced severe complications, including sepsis and encephalitis. This unforeseen catastrophe has placed an immense financial burden on his family, as Kevin has been in and out of consciousness in the ICU far from home. Despite these challenges, Kevin has shown incredible resilience. Months later, he's still fighting to regain his independence. Even with an excellent insurance plan, the coverage is nearly exhausted due to the length of the stay.
That will happen. It happened to me.
Yes, I know. That's its own story, I'm sure, that you can have great insurance and it still runs out on you. But Tony Khan is the top contributor, giving $10,000. Jim Cornette, Chris Jericho are not far behind. Other contributors with famous names within the wrestling business, Scott D'Amore, Cody Runnels, and Dallas Page have all donated 4 figures as well. So the GoFundMe has already exceeded, more than doubled the original target of $20,000, which is heartwarming to hear in these situations.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
See, a lot of people said, "Hey, he made a lot of money. He shouldn't need money for hospital bills." Yes, I don't care who you are. I mean, I guess Bill Gates wouldn't need it, billionaires, but that adds up. He has to live on this money, and what he can earn now on the signing, which is, a pretty good payday, really, for some guys. But don't assume that just because a guy made a lot of money that he should have most of it, which is damn sure not true in wrestling. So you hit a bad run and, you're back to where you began. But thanks to the fans who gave a crap, who gave a shit, about Kevin and wrestling. I want to thank all of them who contributed, because I had a guy contact me. He said, "Hey, can you put up on your social media about this?" And I did. And it started climbing that day. And I don't know how many others they contacted too. I'm sure a lot more. But people contributed. And I think now he started out, they tried to get 20, right?
20,000, yeah.
And now I think he's sitting at, and I looked yesterday, I haven't looked today, but I think he's sitting at 50 or close to it, which is very good. Now, which brings up the point, how much does GoFundMe get out of that?
Oh, I'm sure they get a small percentage. Kevin Sullivan's GoFundMe is at 48,943.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I heard they got 15%. That's quite a bit, don't you think?
I mean, it was quite a bit there.
Yeah.
Not quite into the philanthropy game as they may think, or people may think if they're taking 15%. I'll double check that. Did you have any news on Kevin as of recent?
Well, I heard that he's doing better. And since you read what was wrong with him, he ended up with blood disease, got E. coli. I had that. That will kill you quickly in the blood. So, and I even had a blood transfusion, and I'm lucky to even be able to. I didn't walk out of that hospital. I was rolled out of the hospital, but I was lucky to even escape as cleanly as I did. I was still alive at least. But you know how long I've known Kevin?
We've
over 50 years.
The late 60s when you were both on the Indies. Yeah.
Yep. Sure did. Damn, that's dating myself, isn't it?
You didn't even have a beard at the time.
No, I didn't. I don't even like I could grow one. I was probably getting to the age that one would start growing. But anyway, he's doing better, and I just wanted to, and James just wanted to tell everybody that if you contributed, thank you very much.
Just briefly, a transaction fee for GoFundMe is 2.9% plus 25 pennies. That's the UK one anyway. So it's 2.9%.
Oh, okay. I don't know where I got 17% or 15%.
Just shit stirrer. That's what it is. All right, we'll move on then. We're going to skip that story, so I'm not going to tell you what it is. And we're going to go for one of the biggest stories of the week. John Cena has announced his retirement. Sort of quite randomly, really. He was on the WWE Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and he announced that he was retiring from WWE. He made mention in media the last couple of years that basically he's not going to wrestle beyond 50. He gave himself a hard out, and he's one of the few people who's in a position who's got enough money that he never needs to wrestle or do anything again. So I suppose
unless he goes into hospital,
yes,
and his insurance runs out,
yes, give him a few weeks, that'll all run out, I'm sure. So he clarified at the press conference that his retirement after this is the pay-per-view press conference doesn't end at next year's WrestleMania. Quote, it's not going to end at WrestleMania. That WrestleMania would be my last WrestleMania, but hopefully if everything goes according to plan, we're going straight through from January to December. We're going to try to do a long list of dates. I think right now, tentatively, it's hovering in the mid-30s to 40s because I'm still trying to juggle a lot of stuff that's going on, and that'll be the end of my in-ring competition. Cena then stated he plans to stay involved with WWE after retires from in-ring competition. Let's see if there's any more quotes worth me mentioning. Regarding the possibility of going heel during his retirement tour, Cena felt fans would see through it. Quote, I don't know how much impact that would have. Cena said, talking about turning heel, that goes heavily against what I value. I think you would see through it. Our fans have a great bullshit meter. Which is a good quote. I quite like that. So Cena's retirement then, I mean, he's more or less been retired for a few years now. He's just been in and out the last 3 years.
I actually love it that he announced it. This is it. And I think when Cena retires, his last match, I don't think we'll see him back in the ring anymore. He's not going to retire and then come out of retirement and see who perfected that was Terry Funk. Terry Funk has retired more times than I don't know. What was that band who retired, announced a retirement tour, and then they're still
Kiss?
Something like that.
Yeah, no, Kiss is retired. Kiss was retiring like 25 years ago or something.
Oh crazy. Yeah, and they've all done that. But I think with Cena, I don't think it'll happen. See, one thing Cena has built up is his faith with fans. They believe him if he says something, and they believe he's going to carry through with it. So since he announced this, and what they'll do, they'll put him at his last time in Chicago, which will be a massive sellout. And they'll build it around Cena, and they'll probably have a little presentation probably halfway through the show or maybe at the end of the show or whatever. And the people it'll be, if you're a wrestling fan and you're around Chicago, you want to go to this. I mean, I would. And then, of course, Madison Square Garden, and they will have it, and that'll be huge. And then Boston, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, all the big shows up north at WWF the old WWWF used to run. That was their towns. And then, of course, they run them everywhere else. So, and getting 30 dates or 40 dates out of that, it will be easy, because any date they make will automatically sell out. And I think on every, I think, and they got to pick one pay-per-view that they're going to be on that he's going to retire on. They can't have him retire on every on every monthly pay-per-view. And I thought I was retired last month, but no, I'm really going to do it this time. But I think it's now it becomes its own world. It becomes its. I mean, they just got to, promote that with the match, and he can actually bring a talent and make a talent in this. As far as him being the champion and going for the 17. I'm mixed on that. I think he said the people will see through it, like seeing through wrestling. That's kind of hard to do. But even though he wants that number 17, and I think a lot of fans would like to see him get it.
Do the fans want that? Does WWE want that? Because there was a little theory going around that, on paper, Ric Flair's the 16-time world champion, and Ric Flair currently is somewhat on the outs with WWE. So, I mean, maybe this might be WWE's way sticking it to Flair and saying John Cena's the greatest of all time for... I mean, it's all made up, but because Ric Flair was 23 or whatever it was. But, in WWE canon, in WWE lore, they might want John Cena to overtake Flair.
So how many does Ric Flair have?
Right, okay, so WWE still says 16. I did my own research. I came to the conclusion he had 23 viable title runs. Yes, Flair, as world champion.
In WWE?
No, he only had 2 in WWE, but across NWA and all that.
Well, if you're just going to count that. Hey, Jerry Lawler's had about 50.
And the rest, really? I think it's like 130 or something crazy. He won and lost it like weekly. He probably won it and lost it over Christmas dinner one day.
Hey, Randy Savage beat me one time. I had a title, and the guy was a champion on TV, and I challenged him, and I beat him, and I held it maybe, I don't know, 3 minutes. And then Savage come out there and challenged me, and we started it, and he beat me, and of course he cheated, of course, beat me in like 3 minutes. But it still counts as a title reign or run. Still counts as that.
Mm-hmm.
But that used to happen in smaller territories because you had to. You didn't have time for this damn 400-day run because people said, screw it, give us something else. So, but anyway, what else is the news?
Oh, we're sticking with this for a couple more bits. CM Punk has already declared his intention to be one of Cena's opponents. Cena has also recently praised The Miz as maybe the most underrated person in WWE. We can get into The Miz thing at another point. I just wanted to bring that. But I think Miz is probably going to be one of Cena's opponents for his last run. What's the best way to handle... How would you handle his retirement then? So let's say it's his final match. Let's say it's on a big pay-per-view. Who would...
The final.
Let's say it's the end of 2025, the big pay-per-view, I don't know, Survivor Series, let's say. That's a big pay-per-view towards the end of the year. How would you book Cena's retirement? I mean, would you even have him win? Who would be his opponent?
No, I would have him win. I don't know who his opponent... Can't be the same opponent every time he wrestles. But it's got to be, I think, an opponent out of his past. Randy Orton.
Ooh, that's a good one.
See? Yeah. And I would, and Orton could go out there, and I'd love Orton to turn heel on it and say, hey, I'm about sick and tired of this damn retirement crap. He says, you won't have to worry about retiring after this because you won't be able to walk, let alone get in the ring. Anyway, something like that. And I think on his last match, I think that's when you need the real, it needs to be like a 30-minute segment or a 20-minute segment where he's covered from the start to up to now. And you make it a show of its own. It's actually a pay-per-view of its own. Basically, it's a pay-per-view within a pay-per-view. And that's why I like it, because it books itself. I mean, the work's done. The work's already on videotape, and All you got to do is pull it off and repackage it, reprogram it, clean it up a little bit, and you got it. But I really like the retirement run. How can you mess that up? But hey, wait a minute, we're in wrestling. We can find a way. So,
well, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that, because just last week we were talking about the greatest send-offs of all time, and then Cena miraculously, sort of like in good timing, a couple of days later said he was retiring. But we brought up a few examples. I think I brought up the Great Muta and Jushin Thunder Liger, and I told you how they retired. It was exactly like Cena, about a year in advance, last tour ever, the last time you can see so-and-so in the ring here. And, they were both great successes and, big in-ring presentations, and it was a great deal. And then lots of people were saying, in fact, Tony Khan himself said Sting's retirement was the greatest of all time. And we all agreed, or us two agreed, no, it wasn't. Because they didn't even promote it from town to town. The last time you can see Sting in Delaware or something like that, And it just basically, there was one match, they announced it many months in advance, but then they didn't take advantage of it. And probably the same with Bryan Danielson now. He's announced about a year in advance he's done towards the end of this year, and they just really haven't made that big of a deal about it.
Not a knock on Bryan Danielson, but he doesn't compare to Cena at all. But I do remember a big time, and when he won that title, was it in New Orleans?
Mm-hmm.
Man, and I was there, and it was a huge, huge deal. Now they're going to make a mint, M-I-N-T, a mint, just off the merchandise on John Cena. I mean, I don't know how they're going to come out with the T-shirts and the photos or whatever, but I think he will top. I think he'll top Cody Rhodes for a one night. At WrestleMania. I think he'll top Cody's record. Cody did a record like almost over $1 million cash, not cash, but in a one night take, $1 million. And I think Cena will beat that. I really do.
Let's move on then. Stephanie Vaquer or Vaquer? We can't quite decide how to pronounce the name. The last I heard was Vaquer, so I'll stick with that. So, do you remember, and I hope you do because I sent you the video of it earlier today.
Now, wait a minute. Did you send it today?
I did send it today. And it was Forbidden Door, Mercedes Moné. And we were talking about, what's Mercedes Moné wrestling lady that the casual audience, including us, we'd never really heard of it before. And it was one of the featured matches on Forbidden Door. Now, obviously, it's CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that's what makes it Forbidden Door, I guess. Anyway, she has one match over here of note. And then she impressed apparently enough people within AEW and WWE that she has already been signed to WWE. Shawn Michaels tweeted the following: "Welcome to the WWE family, Steph Vaquer. See you in Orlando." So before we get to the second point about her quitting and all that kind of thing, and the CMLL fallout, you watched Mercedes Moné versus Stephanie Vaquer. What do you think all the fuss is about with her? And is she basically, or was the hottest free agent for the women out there for the American promotions?
Well, what you sent me was quite lengthy. And I was pressed for time this morning. Yes, technically she's very good. Very, very good. But when did we start, really? I guess Meltzer started this. When did we start rating wrestlers just off their ability? Because that's more than what wrestling is. Wrestling is selling tickets. Wrestling is selling pay-per-views, selling merchandise. And what kind of personality does she have? Because if she doesn't have a personality, yeah, she'll be great, technically speaking, in the ring. But does she appeal to kids? Does she appeal to women? Since she's a female, she will appeal to guys. She'll do that automatically. But as far as her in-ring ability, yes, she's very, very good. But we will see. I think that somebody's, and we're going to talk about something coming up, the greatest heel that I can remember. But that was more than just their working ability. And they weren't even great technicians. They just sold tickets. So we will see. They will take, what's her first name?
Stephanie
Vaquer. That's a French word, right?
No, she's Chilean.
Well, Vaquer would be a French name, right?
No, it's Spanish.
It is not.
Well, I don't know if it's French or whatever. I mean, she's from Chile, so I figure it's a Latin name.
She's from Chile.
Yeah.
I thought they spoke Portuguese there.
One or the other. Spanish or Portuguese. It's one of them.
You speak Spanish, right?
No. I've just got the surname. No. I knew you'd ask me this. No, I can't. My parents didn't beat it into me when they should have done.
Okay, she's from Chile. Now, how far would be a WWE run in South America?
They do them very infrequently. They were in Mexico a couple of times in the last 10 years or so, but it's very, very infrequent. But hey, I mean, the more people they can get from international lands, the better, I say. By the way, Chile is the de facto administrative language is indeed Spanish, not Portuguese.
I just thought Brazil is Portuguese.
Brazil is Portuguese, yeah. A couple of other countries are around there as well. Before we go too far on this, with Stephanie Vaquer, just her entrance, her presentation, I mean, did it scream superstar to you? Did it just scream like another person in the pack?
No, her entrance was very good, and it did scream superstar at me, because I'm sitting here watching it and it went superstar, and I kept hearing that in my ears. So, yeah, she has a superstar entrance, and now, of course, WWE, that's their strong point,
forte,
making somebody look like a star. You know, if you just walk to the ring and you just walk back, well, hell, you're just like all the rest of them. But if you get that entrance, look at Roman Reigns' entrance. Hell, it takes him down 6-7 minutes just to get to the ring. Hell, he's already killed the time that he needs on a TV match with just going to the ring. So, yeah, they will make her as much as they can, and I think she will be a superstar. But let's see how she can talk.
Well, she doesn't have the greatest English at the moment, but, you know, if she moves to America, that'll come in time, I'm sure. Now, something has upset the people in CMLL, and let me tell you what it is. This is a quote from, I think, Dave Meltzer. When Stephanie, had told CMLL, they basically said, if you want to go, you can go, but just do business the right way. She's got the tag titles in CMLL. She's got the CMLL singles title. And it was basically go to San Jose, where she's been advertised for months for a New Japan show, and drop the title there, and then drop the tag title wherever, and then do a farewell. And the feeling was that they expected that of her and basically told her, look, they know that they want a WWE, do the right thing. Essentially, what she's done, she's cancelled months' worth of bookings in advance, including this San Jose show where she was meant to lose the singles and tag titles, and just gone, see you all later, and then gone straight to WWE now. This is 2024. That's a shake of the head there.
Shouldn't do that. Because if you can't operate off somebody's word, because, you know, they have a business to run too. And she got signed from there. And it's been a time-honored tradition that you do the honors on the way out. No telling how many girls that laid down for her. And now she needs to do the same thing on the way out. Now, not only does she have the single title, right?
Mm-hmm.
She has the half of the tag team title too, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, she even beat Tessa Blanchard. She beat Tessa Blanchard in her last match in CMLL and then left. So she even leaves a winner.
Mm-hmm. That's what years ago, that if you did that, the other companies, the other territories, they'd be afraid to book you because you could do the same thing to them. Now WWE, they don't worry about that because where's she going to go from WWE? There's no wrestling organization in the world bigger than WWE, but still it is bad business. And if you, like I said, if you can't give your word, and the word was, taken for granted, I guess, that she will honor, and they said they don't mind if she goes to WWE, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just do it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. So I'm agreeing with them, and I wish she hadn't have done that because now I have, she's going to make a lot of money in WWE, regardless of whether if she wins anything or not. She'll have a guaranteed money guarantee, plus all her. No matter what they guarantee you, your gimmicks, we'll call gimmicks, your merchandise is figured into that. You know that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't get a check for, what your contract says, and you get another check for your merchandise. That's all figured in until your merchandise reaches a point to where it goes over, then you do get over that. So that's why some of those contracts are so big. They may give her, I don't know, what do you think she'd get?
Well, that's the good question, really. She's going to NXT.
Nobody knows who she is. Nobody knows who she is yet.
Well, exactly. She's going to NXT, not the WWE main roster. So I don't know what she'll get for a contract. Main roster minimum's like $250. But who's to say she even makes it to the main roster? She might have just burned bridges with CMLL, who don't forgive or forget. That's pretty well established with CMLL. And what if it doesn't work out? What if it's like a Mystico situation? He was Sin Cara in WWE. He lasted a couple of years, the original one. And then it went all wrong. He had, quote unquote, the wrong attitude. He didn't get anywhere and then he left. And then it took him years to rebuild that sort of relationship in Mexico, which he has done now. But I mean, burning bridges, assuming that the WWE run's going to be a giant success is never a great idea. I also want to bring up something else as well. So Eric Rowan did something very similar as well recently. Now he's with the Wyatt Six, but he cancelled a ton of bookings in advance. Now he wasn't like a major champion anywhere like Stephanie.
Cancelled bookings where?
Indie.
Japan?
Yeah, no, not Japan, but they're like indie bookings and may even been UK bookings. I don't know, but yeah, cancelling bookings in advance. And in days gone by, I've heard stories where wrestlers basically said, I will come to WWE or even WWF, but I have to honour these commitments first. And Vince McMahon has been very appreciative of that attitude of, well, this is someone you can trust. So I don't even know if this is like a black mark against her internally with WWE. I was like, wow, man, she cancelled those bookings at the drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is an outlier because of the people involved. But I think they're going to look at her. They're going to take her to NXT, and they're going to work with her. And I don't know how long she'll be there. But how long has she been wrestling? I know nothing about this girl. I never even saw that name till you sent it to me.
Give me a second. So she's born in 93, so that'll make her 31. She's been wrestling since 2009 on the indies, and then CMLL, first major place, 2019. So she's been in the bigger leagues for 5 years now.
Mm-hmm. Well,
time will tell. Right.
WWE, that they're going to teach her a lot of stuff that she didn't learn before because these other little companies, I don't even think they've mastered how to. Some of their talent gets over, but the talent gets over because in the little companies because of basically what they do, not because of how they're instructed to do. But she's a work in progress, we'll say.
Mm-hmm. We shall.
Next time you bring her name up to me, you say the work in progress, and I'll know exactly who you're talking about.
Absolutely, Damien Priest, non-kickout botch. So Damien Priest is having a rough time as of now on big shows. So last month at WWE Clash at the Castle, he slipped off the ropes and he did that flip around and then he got his leg trapped, which is one of the more amusing botches of recent times. Now, this time, we're not going to show the video of this. We're just going to get through it because I'm sure everybody or most people watching have seen it. Is Seth Rollins gives a Falcon Arrow to Drew McIntyre and then tells what happens.
Well, he goes to pin him, and he goes 1, 2, 3. And I went, what? And the referee hops up, and then he starts, I don't know what I hadn't really paid, but he's holding up 2, 2, and said, wait a minute, can he count? He just counted 3. That was one of the biggest botches, really, I've ever seen, because you're taught from day one in any wrestling school that you go to, basically, that if you're not getting pinned, kick out at 2. Always kick out at 2. But he didn't, and everybody in that place, me included, I'm saying, what the hell happened here? Now, they start talking about, was he knocked out? Because what move did he receive right before the pin?
Yeah, it's a Falcon Arrow. It's sort of like a Michinoku driver almost. It's almost like somewhere between a body slam and a pile driver. So it is a head first move kind of thing. But didn't look like it was bad to me, the execution.
I think, was it a production mistake? It was something, because then the music started right after that, which then led to say, well, wait a minute, maybe, I mean, if it was a 3, still Drew McIntyre coming in, it wouldn't have been affected anyway. I mean, you don't have time to think of all this, but it was and the referee, I forgot his name, Rod something, but, and he's been there a long time, but I think he realized that, hey, this is not the way it's supposed to go. You know, when you hit 3 and you're not supposed to hit 3. But another thing is they teach the referees too, hit 3 regardless. Because the referee did what he was supposed to do. He didn't kick out. So I don't know. That was a big, big botch. But at the scrum, now we're using that word. We're using that British word, the scrum, the press scrum at the end of the pay-per-view. They asked Triple H, and he says things like that happened and went right by it. I mean, what are you going to say anyway? It happened, and it was a screw up. And there's no way to explain it. It just happened. So I think Priest, Mr. Damien, took a butt chewing backstage. Now, I bet his producer reamed him out. What are you thinking?
Well, it's not his fault really, but it is. In the sense
it is
that,
his fault. It is his fault.
Okay, someone wrote to me and reminded me of this today. I talked with Shane Douglas about this with his match with Raven. This was just before you were in TNA, like a month before, in 2003. And the lights were supposed to go out, and that was meant to interrupt the pin of Raven pinning Shane Douglas. But the lights didn't go out on time, and Shane, being the veteran, raised his arm, just as a bit of insurance on it. So,
well, was he supposed to get pinned?
No. The lights were supposed to go out, and then.
Oh, okay. So there was no pin involved.
Yeah, but it's the exact same thing.
Shane did the right thing, and it didn't hurt nothing. So, now wait a minute. Since you brought that up, what's the purpose of that story? I didn't get it.
Right. They're both production issues. So the lights went out too late. Okay. So as insurance, Shane lifted his arm. So at least the referee doesn't look stupid.
Yeah, I'd have done the same thing. Yeah. See, I never wanted to lay down there anyway for 3. But guess how many times I did it?
A few times.
Yeah, I bet I've been beat like 9,000 times. That's a record.
It's amazing that you kept up with it.
Only had 9,010 matches, and 8 of them were DQs. So I've won 2 matches in my career.
So very briefly, Triple H says, I'm going to give you the wink political answer to this scrum. He says, human beings in a ring, mistakes happen, things happen. It is what it is. It's funny for me now looking at that. If that was something I was involved in as a talent, I don't care how good the rest of it was. That would be all I would think about. So is that a lesson for future? You know, don't rely on the production.
Yes, it is.
Don't rely on the production to to something to
Well,
go
I
wrong.
guess production got a talking to. I don't know where the mistake came though.
Just I think the
I
music
re-
kicked in too late. That was meant to interrupt the pin because you
so
can.
okay, he's down there and he was waiting for the music. I
Mhm.
think he was thinking about what he's going to do next, and his mind went ahead. That's what happened. And there's no way to fix that. But hey, it is what it is. And will WWE fans lose any sleep over it? No, it happened. Gives them something to talk about. It's good for the history of the business, I guess. Said, hey, you remember that time that damn priest got his ass pinned? He got it all screwed up, but
It's a
and this will
teachable
be
moment.
yeah, this will be something people will talk about. I don't know for a long time. Was he knocked out? But they say he wasn't knocked out, right? It was just a production issue.
I'm figuring. I'm figuring. No, I'm figuring because Seth Rollins was looking directly at the aisle as well, so he was staring
Yeah.
straight ahead and hoping that the music would kick in on time. And I think even Damien might have been looking that direction as well. So yeah, what's up with your camera today? I tell you. Oh, it's come back now. Anyway, we're going to move on. Michael Hayes volunteering people to do silly shit. Now, this is actually an article I saw on Inside the Ropes. I thought I'd add it in.
This sounds like Michael.
Yeah. So, Finn Balor recently gave an interview where he detailed the following exchange. When I was in my first run in NXT in a cage match against Samoa Joe, they wanted me to jump off the top of the cage and do the foot stomp, and I said, no, like Edge did, in that other pay-per-view recently, and he basically did a foot stomp and broke his tibia. And I said, no. And this is Michael Hayes. He's like the main producer. He's like, what do you mean you don't want to do your finish off the top of the cage? And I said, well, A, I might get hurt, and B, it's my finisher, and I'm losing the match, so why would I go off the cage? He goes, good point.
Yeah.
He's Michael Hayes. Shouldn't he be thinking about this instead of the talent he's teaching?
Well, it should be. But I guess he's trying to put this match together but at least in Michael's defense, he gave him a reason accepted. Let's change it. So, but if I was going to say do my finish on somebody, but they end up beating me, well, that kills your finish. Basically, it kills it. I mean, not for all time, but it will kill it in that moment. And once that happens, it can be downhill from there. So I don't blame him for changing it. It's his finish, and he was getting beat. So, and Michael backed up on his request. And now Michael wasn't the type for big ass moves. Michael's biggest moves was jumping over the top rope. Michael used to do a deal where he would come back in the ring and he's ready to go, and Babyface making a big comeback on him, take him outside and leave him laying. Babyface throws him back in the ring, and he's parading around in front. Then he jumps the top rope, hooks his foot, falls in, and the people just roar. And then the babyface covers him. Oh, I've seen finishes like that, and it is a good finish because in the moment the people love it. Oh, you showed your ass out there, Michael, and ended up getting beat. Then he'd pitch a bitch, and he'd cry, and he'd moan, and he'd throw his hissy fit, and it was good. His after the pin work was sometimes better than the match itself. So, but he was good at it.
I've heard this isn't the first time I've heard this with Michael Hayes. Like, I believe it might have been the Hardy Boys or Edge and Christian or whatever it was, or maybe all four of them. And he maybe like booked a series of ladder matches on house shows, and he was volunteering them to do all these crazy things off the ladders. And other people like, you're going to get these guys killed.
Yeah.
But how come Michael Hayes, of all people, is the one trying to volunteer people to do incredibly dangerous stuff when he never did anything like that in his career?
Because he watched it. He watched their matches and he said, oh, that's good. And oh, that's good. That's good. I'm going to put it in here. So all he's got to do is put the moves in. The talent are the ones that say, no, I don't think I can do that there. Well, why not? Can't you do it there? He said, well, the first answer that Finn gave was the best one. I can get hurt. But these guys do moves today. I don't think you could do those moves I'm gonna say back in the day, because we were working like 30, actively working every day for 30 days in a row. Your body's not made to work like that. You got to have some days, rest days. And you might go to, and I've had people say, well, he didn't do anything tonight. And so my first thing is that he's hurt. But you don't know what's hurt, but he does, the talent does. And they shy away from doing anything that could aggravate an injury or just the start of an injury. So, yeah, Michael Hayes, he didn't do those big moves, but he didn't have any hesitation telling the other guys to do moves like that. But he didn't make up the moves for them. They had done those moves before, and Michael had seen them. So, therefore, if you can do the move, you know how to do the move without getting hurt. I guess it was his reasoning.
With Michael Hayes, I know you've booked with him. I know you booked with him in Florida. Did he always have I know you like this word, penchant for just coming out with the most ridiculous stuff? Because didn't he like to say drain the Gulf of Mexico or something once?
Yes, he said that one day off and all night drunk. He'd been drunk all night long. Probably got in at about 4 or 5. Got up. He's supposed to be there at 9 or 10 in the morning. He showed up at 1, still drunker than hell. And he says, "Damn Dutch, I had the damnedest idea last night." I went, tell me, because I was looking for something. He said, "Let's drain the Gulf." I said, "Damn, this is not going to be a very productive day." But it actually ended up being a pretty good day.
Right, okay, we're going to move on. I don't think we'll spend too long on this, but women's IC or US title in the works. The WWE Universe may see women's Intercontinental and US titles introduced to the main roster, though an official decision is yet to be made. Last week, reports circulated that WWE had women's versions of the Intercontinental and United States Championships in the works. These titles would serve a similar role to their male equivalents and be mid-card titles on Raw and SmackDown. Nothing's in the works yet, but man, are there not enough title belts out there?
Oh, I think they got too many. I mean, how many can they have? Because it's almost that if you must really be the shits if you don't. If you don't have a title, I mean, it's too many.
It's becoming like a participation medal now, some of these titles.
I don't get it. I understand. I think the women should have like 2 titles, tag team and what's the WWE Raw Women's Championship?
Just that. Yeah.
Yeah, just that. Then they mean something. But I guess because they think if they come up with two more titles, I mean, if you're on creative, yeah, you can book a championship match in a town that your regular WWE Women's Champion is on the other show. Yeah, you have a title match you can put on here. It makes it look good. But I would say just add 1. Don't add 2. I think the men's, they got too many. How many men's titles do they have? WWE champion.
There's US Intercontinental. There isn't a cruiserweight, is there anymore? There's the Speed title.
Too. The what?
The WWE Speed title, which is only defended on the Facebook or something like that.
What's that mean?
I think all the matches are like 3 minutes or under or something like that.
Never heard of it. Speed title. What you mean? The time limit is 3 minutes?
Yeah, or maybe they're just really into amphetamines. All right, let me have a look for you. Okay.
The cocaine title.
Right, World Heavyweight Championship, Women's World Heavyweight Championship, IC title, tag title, undisputed title, women's title, United States Championship, tag team championships. There's another tag team championships and the Speed title. And then in NXT, there's the main one, the women's, the American Championship, the North American Championship, the Heritage Cup, and the tag team titles. So NXT.
In NXT, they have 5 titles?
Oh, no, they got 6.
Damn.
Yeah, I know. So
Okay, this is a misnomer. You know what a misnomer is?
yes,
right?
yes.
There it goes again. You know what is making this move? The cigar.
Oh, do you think maybe it's the white bands on it or something like that? It's haunting.
Okay. WWE women's heavyweight. They put heavy with women. I think that's a misnomer.
They don't do that.
Use that. Huh?
They don't do that for the women. They just say it's just a women's championship. It's weightless. Theirs.
WWE weightless women's style.
Yeah, anti-gravity.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Diet title. And we can come up with all that stuff.
Well, the Zero or the Pepsi Max. Yeah.
See, they know they have too many titles. They just don't know what to do with it. They really don't.
We shall move on. We're going to do some AEW stuff now. Marko Stunt has returned to
the
midget, basically.
Hey,
AEW.
Can we still use the term midget?
I think we just did. So, yes, the 5'2", I believe he bills himself as indie wrestler, who was also briefly in AEW as part of Jurassic Express with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, has returned to AEW. He confronts Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, in the ring, and the commentator's going, he's seen a ghost from his past. But really, Jack Perry had no different facial expression whatsoever. So anyway, you actually watched the intro, you watched the match. What do you think of, one, the match, and two, Marko Stunt returning to AEW?
Marko Stunt, he's in that Never Land between being a undersized individual, the old school term for it was midget. He's bigger than a midget, but way, way smaller than a normal guy. So he's how tall? 5'2"?
Yeah.
So he is very, very short. And but I will say one thing about him. I watched part of the match. He worked his ass off. I mean, he took some bumps that were really, really good. And I mean, Jack Perry will never see another match where he gets to manhandle a guy like he did. What's his first name?
Jack. Oh, Marko Stunt. Sorry,
Marko Stunt, like he does Mr. Stunt. But I didn't want to watch the whole match, so I would go forward on it. But actually, it was they worked hard. It wasn't a bad match, and the crowd, they were receptive to it. So you couldn't draw a dime with it unless maybe you could tell a story with it somehow. But it'd be a really short run story. But I've never seen anything like that. I will say that AEW did something that I've never really seen before, and won't draw a dime, but they worked hard, and it wasn't a bad match.
So,
can I say that? Can I say that about AEW?
What?
Can I actually put them over, put them over a little bit?
Maybe a little bit. Well, we might have a couple of reasons too.
Marko Stunt. See, I had heard the name, and I'd actually forgotten him. And then when he comes out there, I said, "Oh, I remember the guy. He used to be the one who teamed up with Luchasaurus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that the one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, there can only be one, so I was testing my memories if I remembered right. But pretty good match, basically.
Right. Let me give you this. When AEW came out, one of the knocks against them, and remains so, is that their roster is undersized, and a lot of the fans watching could probably beat up half their roster. You know what I mean? So then and like Marko Stunt was sort of like the most egregious example of that. It's like you've got a 5'2" guy there who's wrestling on par with, let's say, well, at the moment, Jack Perry, who's meant to be one of your top stars. So, I mean, it doesn't pass the believability factor regardless of how well Marko Stunt can work. It doesn't pass the smell test in that sense. Would you agree?
Partially. But hey, if you're talking about it doesn't pass the test of believability, they do a lot of stuff in pro wrestling, and especially in AEW. that doesn't pass the test of believability. Believe me. I saw one guy give a clothesline. He did a front somersault row and then got up and gave the how does that help the clothesline? I don't get it. I do not get it. And if I was an agent, I said, you don't do that. Please don't do that. It makes no sense whatsoever. And I don't even know, it doesn't even make him look good. It makes him look stupid, I think. But hey, there's so many things. If you started nitpicking this and this, and we can have a podcast to go for 24 hours.
Well, that's what we do. That's what podcasts are all about. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, but hey, and I think wrestling fans, they take it for what it is. And for 6 minutes or 7 minutes, they enjoyed what they were seeing. And that's the really test they need to pass. And I think they did that.
There's also like I've not sent you the video for this, but you know, Dynamite Kid's nephew was back in AEW as well, thinking Collision and he's tiny as well. And they're just bringing in smaller and smaller people. It's like when WWE, I'm not sure they're going the other way, but I mean, they've got some big dudes on that roster. AEW seems to be going smaller and smaller in that sense. You really do.
Hey, did you ever see the movie Undersized?
No.
You need to see it. Everybody listening, and I forgot the guy's name, and he's a big star, but it's like they could live longer if they weren't regular size. So him and his wife, they go and take this little procedure, and it makes him like 5 inches high. That's it. And they had a little small house to live in, and they had a little community. A lot of people had already done it. And his wife at the last moment says, no, I can't do it. So they had a one chance to do this. She didn't do hers. So now he's by himself at 5 inches high, and she told him to screw off.
Right. It's called downsizing.
Downsizing.
Yeah, Matt Damon, Christopher Waltz.
Yeah.
Kristen Wiig's in it as well. There you go.
Very interesting movie, I thought.
Starring Marko Stunt.
They should have put him in there.
They should have put him in there, just for scale. All right, okay, we're going to move on now. Tony Khan ruins impending debut. So, there was a tease for a new mass wrestler with the vignette being, I think it was only 13 seconds long, possibly being called Hologram. It was HOLO and then .GRM on AEW Collision this past Saturday. Okay, very briefly before we discuss that, what did you think of the vignette? Did you think much of anything? There wasn't much to go on.
No, I thought it was just a test pattern type deal. It's only 13 seconds. So you're thinking, what the? I think most people who watched it didn't even know what it was. And after it was done, and I don't think they thought any, I think they thought it was like a video mistake or a glitch or an error or something. But, and now after I ran it back, I ran it back the first time. I said, wait a minute, I missed something. I missed it. Go back. And then it was the same thing. I went, what's wrong with this thing? So I ran it back 2 or 3 times because I'm sort of dense up here sometimes. But I don't get it. There's not enough there to even make an impression, really. I'm going to tell you, Tony Khan, it's hard to envision what he's thinking about in his booking time, in his off time. I think he might have lost his mind a little. I think he's winning. This wrestling has driven him crazy. I don't know. But I will say this. Since we've talked about it, he kind of accomplished what he set out to do, was to make people say, what the hell was that? So he made me think about it. So that's half the battle.
Well, he's okay. We thought about it. We wouldn't have been talking about it unless he'd done an interview on. This is another thing I'll mention in a minute. He went on some podcast that no one's ever heard of before, and like has no views and no anything. And
hey, we got 120,000 subscribers now.
Yeah, we're too big for Tony Khan, apparently. Not that we would have invited him. But he says, it's somebody I'm excited.
You would love to have Tony Khan on.
it's a waste of time having Tony Khan on an interview because he admits to nothing. He gives away nothing.
But hey, I would tell him that. I said, say something. You're not saying anything.
If he was in the same room, we could sort of like sit on him or, put him in some sort of submission and say, give us a proper answer.
I'd put him in a submission hold.
Yeah.
And make him talk. Yeah.
Right. So
then you'd have, hey, listen, and then you'd have a little zapper, and then if he didn't answer right, we just give him like a 2-second shock. And after a while, he started coughing up some information.
I'll arrange that. I'll contact AEW and arrange that. Right. So he says,
is that criminal?
Not if he signs a waiver. Hey, some people pay good money for that kind of treatment,
They do.
So
hey, if anybody wants to get held in a chokehold and tased, write us here and we'll show you the process.
Yeah, we'll negotiate a price on that. He says about this, it's somebody I'm excited for, but it's not necessarily teasing the biggest free agent signing or anything like that, but that it's a wrestler that we're really excited about. And it also uses cool vignettes and da-da-da. So what I'm saying is, right, so it's not for Ricochet, is what this is. It's for some guy called Aramis from Mexico that's never really done anything in the States. And apparently
Aramis.
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 Something like that. It's how it's pronounced anyway, Aramis.
We don't say Aramis down south. No? We say Aramis.
Aramis. Okay.
Aramis.
We'll say Aramis for him.
Aramis up your butt.
You're back to your taser thing again.
Hey,
now,
you need to get a little more serious with this podcast, Tony.
Don't.
I was going to tell you, Tony.
Well, hang on. You threatened to anally violate me with a taser as well.
Okay, Aramis.
Okay, right. So anyway, it's a guy.
I don't get it.
It's a guy nobody's heard of, but also Tony Khan's come out and say, "Oh, it's not someone really good. It's just some other guy." It's like, well, way to pour cold water on that one, bro.
Oh my God, too much.
Let's move on. Now, this is actually something that was pretty darn good. Mariah May's heel turn on Toni Storm. So, while Brian Adams, for God's sake, he's not around anymore. Bryan Danielson defeated Adam Page in the finals of the men's, in the men's finals. Mariah May won the women's version of the Owen Hart tournament. And don't get me started that there's two tournaments called the same thing, men's and women's running concurrently. What? So stupid in the name of equality. Anyway, she followed her win with an attack on timeless Toni Storm, as well as Luther and Don Stevens as well. So you watched this big old thing happen, and this actually closed the show out as well. So I thought that was a good positioning on the card. But yeah, timeless Toni Storm and Mariah May, an official heel turn there for you. What did you think?
Well, it wasn't awful. I don't think it's going to draw anything. I really don't. But it was unique. It was. Because Toni Storm and Mariah May was in, let's set the context here. Mariah May was in a match with Willow Nightingale.
Yep.
And they had a pretty good match. That Willow Nightingale, I like her. I mean, and they had and that Mariah May, blind-headed little thing, she looks a lot like Toni Storm, basically. They look alike. They look like sisters, almost. But Toni Storm was out there cheering her on. And then it finally came, and Mariah May finally beat Willow Nightingale. And Willow Nightingale get over there and give her a good match. And then they got together going up the ramp, Mariah May and Toni Storm, and two blonde-headed young ladies going up to the top. Got up to the top, and they were both baby faces, I'm assuming. And then that Mariah May, that no good hussy, turned on Toni Storm and beat the crap out of her and turned heel and got her bleeding, got juice on her, as we say in the business. But I've seen something that, I've probably seen it before, but she pulled off the heel of her Where did she get a high heel, a lady's high heel shoe?
Oh, it would have been Tony's. Yeah, it would have been
Toni.
Yeah.
And she pulled it off and she started hitting her in the head with it. First time I've ever saw anybody, especially a lady, turn heel by using a high heel slipper. And that brings into something else. Toni Storm was bleeding like a stuck pig. I mean, she had a lot of blood. And I'm trying to sort. I don't like women with blood. I just don't. I don't like the excessive use of it either, even on men, because I think the story should take precedence over the blood. But there was no need for the blood in this. But it did. All I can say is I watched it with no thoughts at all. It was actually pretty good for what it was intended to be, which is to turn her heel. But one thing about women getting bleeding, most women don't want to do that. And I don't blame them, because, their face is their most important attribute. And they don't want to mess their face up. I don't blame them. Look here, guys. You see Benny up there? You don't see a lot, do you?
Mm-hmm.
You know why?
Because you wouldn't do it.
I was checking shit. I wouldn't do it. See, I would take it, and I had the blade here, and I'd go, it's trying to get closer, and I push it back down. Oh, it was. I don't understand it. I really don't. Well, so we've talked about Toni. Some of the things that we don't understand, Marko's stunt and this, and Humagod, what's the guy's name? Aramis?
Aramis, yeah. I already forgot his name.
I don't know. And I think, yeah, he's doing it to amuse himself, but I don't think it's going to amuse many other people.
Do you know what, right? Let me ask you this. I genuinely thought you would like it more than you said you would. I thought it was, like a Memphis style, old kind of thing, attack, blood, something to go off TV with.
I like blood, just not on me.
No, but is it purely like a distasteful thing for you then? You just women bleeding specifically? Just
no, it is. I just don't like it. I never have. I don't think people pay money to see a woman bleed. I just don't, because women, I'm old school. Women are your mothers. Women are your tender things, not your, Abdullah the butchers and all that, what you expect. But seeing that, and especially in kids, I don't think the kids want to see it. So a parent with his kids seeing her do that, I think that's a big turnoff. And I think they lose more fans than they will gain by that. My opinion. So, but we wouldn't even be talking about this had not Tony Khan in the secrecy of his living room or bedroom or wherever he's going through all this stuff. And yeah, I'm going to have her cut herself. I just don't get it. So, hey, there's more things in wrestling now that I don't get than what I do get, especially watching Tony's show.
Well, speaking of, the other Toni anyway, so I guess this means Toni Storm is now an official babyface, if she wasn't already, because she was always popular with the contingent with the crowd because of the character. But
okay, so tell me, let's context the match. Willow Nightingale was a heel or a babyface?
No, Willow's a babyface. So I don't know if Mariah May was also a babyface or a heel or what at this point. Who knows? I think she was a heel recently. So anyway, the point is that how do you make Toni Storm a babyface in the sense of she was
already a babyface?
Well, yeah, I know she was, but she wasn't. But she was in that sense. She was an entertaining heel that ended up just naturally becoming a babyface. But then, if you're going to be a straight babyface, one of the main tenets of her character is that she's got no self-awareness and that she's like a pastiche of these starlets from 100 years ago. So, does she have to modify her character in any way to become a true babyface in that sense?
Yeah, I heard that question, but I didn't hear that question.
Does she have to change her character? Does she have to change her character to update it to a babyface or more traditional babyface than she was before?
I love the Toni Storm character. I really do. But I think she was a babyface just by virtue of her personality and her persona. And the people, there was nothing to boo about her anyway. She's lost in time. So what are you going to boo? It's just something. And I think the people liked her anyway. And she was entertaining as hell. And I don't know. I don't even know what to do with Toni Storm or that other girl now. If you told me to book that match, I wouldn't know what to do with it at all. And I think whatever you do end up doing, we just it's not going to do anything. I don't think when they get in the ring again, what do you think their reception is going to be?
I think with the contingent, it'll do quite well.
That's where we disagree. I think the people are going to. Yeah. I think it could be Wembley, but they can't be putting them together all these matches up to Wembley because then you take away from it. If you put them even in Wembley, I think the people are just going to sit there.
Okay, we will see then. That's
what I think. Okay, what is to get excited about?
I suppose. Do you hate
Maria? Okay. Do you hate Mariah May?
No.
Are you more perplexed why she even did it?
Probably that, because there was a thing a couple of weeks ago where there was
perplexed. What is a perplexed reaction? But not, you son of a...
Is it, right, okay, is it because the intention or the motivations are unclear?
That means no reaction. You're still trying to figure it out. That's what I think. That's the reception they're going to get. If going on right now, without doing anything else, I think the reaction would be silence.
Let's move this on then. Hulk Hogan's racist firing over beer. So I thought you'd like this story, and then we're going to get to the big finale. So
racist firing. Oh, I saw that. But go ahead, tell me the story.
Okay, then. So inside the ropes right up from here. Having recently launched his Real American Beer, Hulk Hogan has been on a promotional tour around America to promote the beverage in stores and restaurants. Social media influencer Essence Janai. Essence. What kind of first name's Essence, anyway? Was part of the promotional tour, but was told that her services were no longer required after one day. Uploading multiple videos to her TikTok account about her experience, Janai's first post contained the following caption. POV. Hulk Hogan paid you to be a brand ambassador and cancelled your contract the next day when you realised you were a black brand ambassador. The video shows... Well... Oh, yeah. There's more. The video shows the influencer at a grocery store with Hogan, proving that she was part of the promotional tour for the beer and had met the former wrestler. A follow-up video provided more information where it was stated that the brand ambassador was hired for a week, but was removed from the tour after one day, pointing out that in subsequent events, the ambassadors were only white women. Janai also shared a screenshot of a text exchange received from the company stating that all events had been cancelled, only for multiple events to occur in the following days, once again, with only white women seen with the former WWE star Hulk Hogan. So, an update from this. As a spokesperson for Real American Beer has responded to the allegation and has stated that Hogan was not involved in the decision and has denied race being a factor. We are deeply troubled by the false rumours circulating on social media that a brand ambassador hired by a third-party marketing agency was terminated by Hulk Hogan for racial reasons. Real American Beer simply terminated its short-term relationship with the third-party marketing agency. Hulk Hogan was not involved in that decision and race was not a factor. So, I mean, maybe they found her TikTok and realised she had under 20,000 views. It's like, what kind of... I mean, influencer is the most embarrassing profession, which we're not, by the way. We're a media company. We produce media. We actually produce something of value here. But...
So they hired this girl. She has only 20,000 subscribers.
Less. 19-something, yeah.
On TikTok?
Yep.
That's not a lot. But wouldn't they have, well, I don't know. But see, anytime you can level accusations like that, it does.
Without consequence as well.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm so sick and tired of hearing about the girl happened to be black, and then they used another girl and she's white. Which people go by headlines anyway. You don't read the whole thing. You said, oh, that damn Hulk Hogan, that damn racist bastard. Is it his company?
No, he's just a brand ambassador. They use his image. So, as I say, it's not like Hulk Hogan doesn't have form in the old racist comments made public kind of thing, of course. But I mean, I'm wondering if this chick, just because Conan, I'll get bonus points with him for saying that, has basically just discovered that and thought, hey, here's a way to get my name out there, or, level an accusation, because, I mean, she can't prove it.
Well, actually, her name's out there more now.
That's the point, yeah.
Yeah, and she will. She'll write it as long as she can. The thing about being called a racist is because you can't deny it. Oh, I'm not a racist. Oh, yeah, well, I mean, once you're branded a racist, you're always a racist. You cannot erase that. It's just something that are anti-gay. If you're branded that, well, you just can't, yeah. And the people look at you, yeah, right. But there's no way you can deny it.
You can't disprove a negative in that sense.
That's you can't prove it, but they can't prove it, but you cannot disprove it. So the weight of it reverts back to the one that's being accused, and you can't do it. So I think that beer is kind of, what's the name of the beer? All American beer.
Yeah. Do you want me to send you some? We could do a taste test.
Let's do it. Send me some.
Okay, I promise I will. Here's the thing, though. It's like, aside from, I really hate, because people have called me an influencer. Very occasionally, I've always said, don't ever call me that, because it's one of those things that's like, don't call me sir, I work for a living, in the army. Yeah. Yeah, that old saying. It's one of the things, no, we actually do a lot of work. What we don't do is, because I looked at this girl's TikTok, and here's what she was doing. She's got long black hair, and she's doing this.
That's it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't get my phone.
Yeah.
Like that.
How does she look, though? Is she a pretty girl?
Yeah, I guess. Anyway, she's it's just valueless. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just
so you're not an influencer.
I hate them all, because they're just so many trips I've been on recently where these people are hogging. I was in Croatia a couple of years ago, right? And there was like a nice pier at the end of a dock, and this one girl was just at the end, because there was a nice queue of people, a line of people waiting to take photos and get a nice photo, and she was hogging it, taking about 400 photos with a overly ridiculous dress on, for the weather and the time of year and the place. And it's just like, man, I hate you all, because it's the most self-absorbed, talentless profession in the world, and it could only happen in this day and age now. Apparently, I hate this girl, this chick,
yes, please, was taking pictures in this outlandish outfit, and people were taking pictures with her.
No, she was only getting a photo of her taken by, I suspect, her boyfriend or husband, beleaguered and forced to do these things and sort of revolve their lives around the girl who's a quote-unquote influencer. I heard a good joke, or it was an Instagram thing, I think, and it's a man and a woman dating. It's just a picture, and it says, what do you do? It's like, oh, I'm a model on Instagram. And the guy goes, that's cool, I'm a soldier on Call of Duty.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. Is that funny? I don't get it.
It's one for the younger crowd, apparently.
Is a video game, right?
Yes.
See, I knew a little more than you thought, right? Said, I don't play Call of Duty. Once you've been there, those games aren't so much fun.
No, I don't. Well, I don't want to give you like PTSD or anything by forcing you to like play Call of Duty or anything. We'll move on anyway. So, no, very briefly, do you just think this is just someone leveling in? Well, we've already talked about it anyway. Let's get to the main event. The Rock. So,
okay, go ahead.
He says the final boss was the greatest heel ever. So there's a meme going around this past week, and it's The Rock in a silver shirt and doing like this. And then someone will just say something outlandish, and because The Rock Dwayne Johnson has said more outlandish things as the years go on. And it was a still from the WrestleMania 4 documentary that WWE put out, the documentary that seemed to document nothing of interest somehow. And he basically called himself, or the final boss character he brought out in 2024 to face Cody Rhodes, the greatest heel of all time.
Isn't that a little premature?
Well, it's 3 months.
Yeah,
on one angle.
See, I have to put a meaning to this. A great heel is not one who doesn't really work the best, but he's the one that he entertains the people the best. They hate him, but they secretly want to like him. I'm going to say right now the top heel ever in the wrestling business, and I don't think many people will disagree with me. It's got to be Vince McMahon in the evil boss character. People hated that son of a bitch, but he was so entertaining. And he came up with some of the greatest skits ever. I think is one of his best ones, and did the greatest viewing ratings of the shows that he was on, was the Kiss My Ass skit that he would do. Oh, it was great. And I would have to rate Vince number one, and he's almost untouchable. I mean, all through the 100 years of pro wrestling or whatever it comes down to. But he's got to be the most hated heel and the best heel and the most entertaining heel of all time. I got to put Vince McMahon in that spot.
Well, go back down to the beginning. So he's number one, but give us some honorable mentions before we get to 10, and then we'll do 10 to 2.
Honorable mentions, I would say Bruiser Brody. And I'll tell you why they're not higher. And Stan Hansen, of course, that was mostly in Japan, and Ernie Ladd. And out of then, I will rate Ernie Ladd over Stan Hansen and Brody. And why do I rate Ernie Ladd over them? Because Ernie could talk. Ernie was a talking machine. And you talk about, well, these guys couldn't wrestle. Who gives a shit? They made you notice them, and you wanted them to get beat because you just didn't like them. Ernie Ladd, I used to ride with him a lot, and he was very entertaining just to talk to. And he would tell these stories, and he'd tell a wrestling story, then he'd tell a football story, then he'd tell a wrestling story, then he'd tell another. He loved wrestling. And tell you the truth, I don't even know how he got into wrestling. He told me that story one time. He told me the story that all the football players really back in his day, they made more money wrestling than they did playing football. Did you know that?
Mm.
And it was just recently, of course, when football started to kind of say, oh, there's big money to be made in this with TV. And that's when they started making money. But I think Ernie Ladd, he's an honorable mention, and Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody. Okay, the next one I think is you gotta give it to Bobby Heenan.
Is this honorable or is this top 10 now?
No, I think we'll go top 10 now.
Okay, great.
And Heenan basically was Heenan vicious in the ring? No. You just didn't like the way he talked to you. He was entertaining as hell. When Heenan came on, it was better than a match to hear what Heenan had to say, because he was another entertaining. There's more to being a great heel than just being vicious and beating somebody up. I mean, Heenan, when he got into a match, you wanted to see him literally get killed. They wanted to see him carted out on a stretcher, and he was very athletic, sometimes he would do that dive over the top rope and just catch the top rope and land on the floor. It was a thing of beauty, really, and nobody else did it, but he could do it and go over the top. And if you just want to sit out there in the crowd and listen to the people, I mean, they roared. I mean, they hated Heenan. You could tell by crowd reaction. They hated him. So let's start with him at number 10. Here's I would give maybe that wasn't number 10. But anyway, I'll give the ones. I would say Roman Reigns right now. Roman Reigns, he sits at and you watch every heel that they've ever had. Roman is not only telling a story with him, but he's the biggest baby face that WWE has right now without even being there. Because we all know that Roman's coming back, and Roman will come back, and the first night on a pay-per-view or whenever they book him will be a complete sellout because they've told the story and he's the center of the story. Who is the leader of the bloodline? And when he comes back, they're going to go with him over the Solo Sikoa. And it's going to help Solo. It's going to help him and those other two guys, Tonga and Tama, or whatever their name. It's going to help them so much because now you have somebody to go up against them and you can choose sides. They want to see Roman put them in their place. And if they go and they beat the hell out of Roman, that seals them. That seals their fate as top heels. Mm-hmm. What was you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, this is a heel list. You've mentioned Roman Reigns, but as a babyface, but he couldn't have got that popular without being hated for years previously.
Oh yeah, I mean, but it took them. I mean, let's say something about WWE patience here. They had patience, and that was I always preach patience. It is not going to happen overnight because he came in as a babyface and turned, but I don't know even who he turned on. But it took him a long time to get started. The fans fought it and fought it and fought it. And finally I said, hey, give it up, guys. I said that. But one thing about it, they stayed with it. They said, no, we're going to get it. And they stayed with it so long, even I give up on it. And I said, guys, it's not going to make it. And that took about 6 months to a year to the people to actually start kind of booing him and disliking him a little bit. But in the last 2 years has been masterful. You know, him and Heyman, him and the other stories surrounding him, and especially since Triple H has taken over. I mean, he's not even there, and is already the biggest baby face that they have, and they know that. And they can figure him in whenever. So, you know, you used to like to have things like this happen when you hit a down point. Well, you just pull your ace at a hole, which would be Roman, bring him in, business is back to selling out. But their business hasn't shown a tendency to even go down. It's sellouts after sellouts because they've taken their patience and laid out all their different angles, and they put, it's an art form. Believe me, it's an art form. And Triple H has studied this over the years, and he knows exactly what he's doing. So I'm going to give Roman, say, the 9 spot. Except this may not turn out to be exactly take it down to 1. Here's one that the people really, really hated. And you didn't see a lot of him, and I don't think the people saw a lot of him. But he was such a heel that they even hated him in the dressing room because he was a smart ass. And he'd tell you what he thought about you and be funny with it. And if you got hot, he said, oh, man, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. Then he'd make you feel like an idiot because he ribbed you, and that's what it was. And you got hot about it. Was Ole Anderson. He had so much heat, and I wrote a story about this. Greenville, South Carolina, I think in the 70s, He had so much heat. A 76-year-old man. Have I told the story before?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, old man
Okay.
sliced him, didn't he?
Yeah. 76-year-old man with a hawk bill. You know what a hawk bill
Yeah,
is?
knife. Yeah,
Well, it's a
curved. Yeah,
curve.
yeah.
He hooked him right here and he came down. He cut him from there to the belt line. It took like 90 stitches to piece him up. But here, and he was 76 years old and he cut him. And because he had that much heat. So they arrested the guy quite naturally. And Ole, guess when he came back to work?
Yeah, we would have been soon. You don't get paid if you don't work.
Yeah, he come back the next week. He was all stitched up, but he came back, didn't have a match, but he came back and he started joking about it. He said, I told them it was an old man with a bald head. He said 15 minutes later, they arrested Gene, his brother. So that was funny. But Ole, he would do these interviews. He did a famous angle one time with Dusty in the Omni. You've seen it?
Mm-hmm.
I was there.
Mm.
Oh my God. It was sold out. And the place damn near rioted. It was getting Ole back to the dressing room was a fight from the ring all the way back to the dressing room. And it's a good ways. It's probably 150 feet. You know, it's they put the ring up right at center court where the Atlanta Hawks played. It was in the Omni, the old Omni. And they fought from there all the way back to the dressing room. And I think it was an hour or two before he could even leave. But Ole Anderson is one of those old-time heels that was entertaining as hell. You hated him. And see, a lot of heels, like Roman, you want to see him as a babyface. But Ole, they wanted to see him a babyface that night because he was teamed up with Dusty. And it turned out, and it was a great story. He tricked Dusty into going this, I think, tag team match and let Ole be his partner in the cage. And then three people that hated Ole, I hated Dusty. When the match ended, they all had turned.
For the referee as well.
What did the referee do?
He was. I think that might have been Gene.
But it was a great angle. Mm. One of the best, and that's why I put him in the top heels of all time. It was a great angle, executed magnificently and masterfully. So, but it almost got them all killed.
Sorry. Gene Anderson and Ivan Koloff were referees and they were against the Assassins. So just to clarify on that one. Okay, so next one, that was number 8. So who have we got as number 7?
I'm going to pick Sergeant Slaughter. Sergeant Slaughter, great heel, especially during the Iraq War. What's it, the Iraqi War?
Yeah. Gulf War, yeah.
Yeah, the Gulf War. And he, you know, he had this big, did the feud with the Iraqi guy, what was his name?
Adnan Al-Qaisi. Okay, so let me just...
No, the Sheik, the Iron Sheik.
Yeah, he was...
did that follow his turn as a heel?
No, that was years earlier. That was years earlier, the Iron Sheik feud. The Gulf War was in 1991. So the funny thing was when he was an Iraqi sympathizer and has like a Photoshop picture with him and Saddam Hussein, by the time he meets Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania, the war was already over. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And then he had Adnan Al-Qaisi and Iron Sheik with him. Iron Sheik was called Colonel Mustafa at the time.
Yeah, he had a hell of a gimmick and drew a lot of money. And Sergeant Slaughter, if you just met him and sit down and talk to him, very entertaining, very funny. And if you're kind of funny like I am, he would laugh and I would laugh. And we had a hell of a time just talking to each other. Good guy. But people hated him being the sympathizer with the Gulf War people. I mean, he's like a traitor. He was a turncoat. So I'm going to put him in that spot. Here's another one. Jake the snake. I mean, it's hard to like a guy that's got a big 10-foot long python in the ring. There's something evil about him. And you could look at, I mean, Jake's, I think, biggest attribute was he looked evil and he talked evil. When he would start talking and you look at those eyes and you say, oh man, I can feel the evilness just coming off him. And I think the people felt that. And especially with the angle he had with Savage and the snake. And I think the people put themselves in the position of whoever was laying in the ring and for Jake to lay that big snake on them when they were tied up or something. People said, I couldn't do that. Yes, he was one of them.
Mm.
Me.
Mm-hmm.
If they told me, okay, Dutch, we're going to lay you down, then he's going to let that damn snake slither up on you. I said, I don't think so. I don't think we can do that unless you got some handcuffs and some ankle bracelets. I don't think I can lay there and let that snake do it. So
he was an intelligent bad guy. I mean, like with all his interviews and stuff, he wouldn't just get the whole "I'm going to get you" kind of thing. You know,
he was evil. I'm telling you, he let his presence, yes, his dark side, his dark soul, I mean, come to the top, and he could do it because he would never raise his voice, and he would look at you and kind of grin a little bit, and you're saying, "Oh my God." But he did his job great. I mean, you can't produce that. I mean, if I had an idea, I want a guy that can act evil. Well, you got to find one. You can't just get one because Jake was like that almost naturally. And I mean, Jake's had a lot of problems and I've had a problem with him, but I have to say one thing. He had a lot of heat as a heel, and he's not almost the type that you want to see as a baby face, but you'd rather be cheering him than booing him. But he's in that list of forgotten heels. I mean, I didn't forget him, and I think the people will agree with me. Here's another one. Randy Savage. When I broke in with him, and we basically taught each other to work the style that was prevalent in the day, a lot of action. And Savage, I would like to say he was pretending a gimmick, but he wasn't. He was like Jake. Jake, if you talk to him in the dressing room, sometimes he would just, that evil side would just bubble up to the top and overflow. Savage was the same way. Savage was the macho man. He started out as Randy Savage. Then he came the Macho Man, and I forgot what else I was going to say. But he grew into these stages.
Well, I never asked you this. When you feuded with him, when you were still wrestling with Nick Goulas, who was the bad guy? Who's the good guy? Or did he switch over time?
No, he switched. He was a heel. Because I went in as a heel, and then he saw me there, and he come up to me and he said, "Listen, we're beating the head against the damn." If you can put Randy Savage's voice in a normal voice, that's the way he was talking. But he said, one of us needs to turn. He said, I think you need to turn babyface. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, we could draw a lot of money. And we didn't draw a lot of money in today's terms. But for that little territory, yeah, we went to like, Nashville, a pretty good sized town. We went from like 200 people in Nashville on a Wednesday night. We got it up to 1,000 people, and that was a little building was sold out. So we upped the house quite a bit, and Savage was over. But Savage wasn't the type of heel you hated. You wanted, you loved to hate him because he was entertaining. And I've had people tell me, said, I never watched wrestling before in my life. And this was when I used to live in Nashville. Said, I was flipping through my channels one day, and I just happened to flip across the wrestling show. And I was going, click, 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 and all of a sudden just a, ooh, yeah. And they switched again. They go 2 or 3 more channels. They said, wait a minute. What was that guy talking about? Click, click, click. They go back. Oh, yeah, much. And that's what made them fans because he got them interested in wrestling. He was different than any other wrestling character they'd ever seen because that was before the days of cable. So they just got local wrestling then, but it made a lot of them fans. And Savage, he was the type, was an in-betweener. That was the type you would like to see turn babyface because you liked him, but you didn't like him. So here's another one. Roddy Piper.
Number 4.
Would he have been on your list?
I think he's on most people's list, yeah. So he's 4th on yours.
Well, let's make him 3rd. I'll add somebody else down here, but we're getting close to the bottom here. Piper, I think I've never been around Piper much, but usually when you sit around and talk with him, he was fine. He'd go out of the Piper mode, but when he would go out there and he'd start talking, and he started this, I think, in Oregon. Where is Roddy from? Was he from up there?
Well, he settled into the Oregon territory, but I think he's Canadian.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Right above that. But he learned how to get people's attention there. That's what your little territories used to do. You see, Vince didn't have to start a NXT. He didn't have to start that because he had all these smaller territories doing the work for him. That it didn't cost him anything. But Vince's fetish back in those days was just big guys. Big guys, the 300-pounders. But the 300-pounders don't do a lot. And 300-pounders don't have a lot of personality, really, because they didn't need to have. But so when they realized that the personality is found in the smaller guys, that's when they finally really started doing business. See, the days of the Bruno days were gone. I mean, I was reading up on Bruno Sammartino. He held that title like 8,000 days or 7,000 days.
Well, no, it wasn't quite that much, but it's probably like 10, 11 years total.
Oh, yeah, but see, and how many days a week did he work?
Oh, I don't know. I think in his later run, it was limited. In his earlier run, he was doing
every day.
Yeah, he may have had Sundays off or every other Sunday or something like that. But yeah, for the most part, he was working every day.
Well, but anyway, because he's never been a heel. He couldn't have been a heel if he'd wanted to be. People wouldn't have bought that at all. But I'm talking about Piper. Piper was, the old saying is, talk you into the building.
Mm-hmm.
Piper could literally talk you into the building because he was so good on his interviews. And we were talking about a girl earlier. Her name was Stephanie Vaquer.
Mm-hmm.
She's a great in-ring talent, but does she have any personality? Now that you told me she was Portuguese or Chilean. I don't know if that's going to, I don't know what kind of personality she's going to have. Because not a lot of Chileans that I know. So
let me ask you this about Roddy, because I know we've talked about Piper a few times before, but I don't think that it's mentioned a lot is that the dude had a lot of integrity. You see, apparently he's one of the nicest people you could speak to. And when he first went to the WWF, for a long time, he refused to appear on any card that was, I think, in like Don Owen's territory because he was loyal to them, or maybe even Sam Mushnick's territory. There were certain places he refused to work because he was loyal to the people who were loyal to him. And even, in this cutthroat, 1984 expansion year, he was one of the only people, I guess, who could even get away with saying that to Vince, let alone could even think of saying that.
That's what I was going to say. Most guys couldn't get away with it. Most guys, Vince will say, hey, you either go or you need to finish up and leave. But if he had integrity, Vince had to like him. And he had to like that, he was still loyal to the guy or the guys who helped him get to the WWF. And I guess he liked that about Roddy, but Roddy was one of the very few guys I could think that Vince would even listen to. So who told a story the other day that he went to Vince, said he can't work all these dates, and Vince said, I need you there, pal. I need you there, pal. I need you there. So he wouldn't give him the days off. I can't remember who said that.
Oh, there's been a lot of people who've said that, I imagine. It's funny.
Yeah,
but it's like you're in the first match, pal. That's the most important match.
But anyway, Roddy Piper would talk him into the building, and one of the best heels that I've ever seen. And hey, his work rate wasn't, but like all these guys, they didn't do all these moves. They did it all by personality and performance and timing. See, that's what they don't give wrestling credit for, is the timing. It's like a comedian. Comedian has to have his timing right, because if it doesn't land right, it doesn't hit. But Piper had all that.
Right, we've got 2 more spaces. You said you wanted to move Piper up to 3, so we've got spaces 4 and 2 to fill.
4 and 2. Well, I got to think. I'm going to put, just for pure violence and viciousness, Abdullah.
Okay.
Abdullah, there was nothing to like about Abdullah. He's a big, where did he say he was from? The Sudan.
Sudan, yeah.
The Sudan. Now listen, and I've told stories before. Hey, when I first started in wrestling, I thought he was really from the Sudan, because he never said anything. He'd just sit there and look at me, and I'd be on the other side of the dressing room, and I go, oh God, he's looking at me. I didn't even know he spoke English. I really didn't. So, and I would never talk to him. Literally, I was afraid to even say hello to him. And then one day I heard him speak English. I went, wait a minute. I didn't know he spoke English. But I've seen him go out there, especially some matches in Puerto Rico, brutal. The people were tearing him apart, throwing bottles. And they had to finally stop selling beer in Puerto Rico, because everybody got drunk during the matches. It was, if you either went to a bar or you went to the wrestling matches on Saturday night to get drunk. But some of that stuff flying through the air was, this is Abdullah coming back from the ring, was just knocking stuff down. And he had a manager, and his manager was trying to block his stuff, but the manager was getting hit too. Hugo Savinovich. He was a great manager too.
Commentator for a long time for WWE as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. And he went up there. I think he's still there, isn't he?
No, he's not been there for a few years, I think.
Well, so that covers number 3, right?
Yeah, now it covers number 4. Roddy Piper's number 3. So we've only got the number 2 spot left. And you told me you had a name in mind for the number 2 spot, so I hope you not forgot it.
No, I got it. Brother, I took you.
Okay, no. Well, the thing is, I gave you so many names.
I took you at your word. You say you need to write it down. This is one of my favorites. I'll tell you another honorable mention, Jerry Lawler.
Yes.
Jerry Lawler drew a lot of money, entertaining, and when he booked Memphis, he booked a lot of bull crap, but sometimes he booked things just for himself. And an old-time booker told me one time, he says, if you ever become a booker, kid, he said, always remember to book something for yourself. Tony Khan probably heard it and thought he says, book everything for yourself. because you're the only person that's going to understand it. But this is one of my favorites.
Before you say it, this is someone I didn't even put on the list because I forgot to. But I thought maybe if I did, he might have made your top 10. Ox Baker.
No, but he's an honorable mention.
Yeah, we'll give him an honorable mention, but he wouldn't have made top 10.
No.
Okay, number 2. Who is it?
Terry Funk. Is that who you thought I was going to say?
It was, yeah.
Terry Funk. I'm going to tell a story about Funk. And I may have told this story before. Eddie Gilbert loved Terry Funk. He just loved him, and he loved Jerry Lawler. So some of those little shows we used to go to, I'd be watching Eddie working, and I could tell when the match started who he was going to emulate. Sometimes he was Jerry Lawler, and sometimes he was Terry Funk, but he had it down to a T. Funk, he used to look at me and said, Dutch. And then he started telling some story, very entertaining. And every match was different. You know how when you see Flair's matches, a lot of his matches are the same. It's the bump over the top rope, go down, get punched, get up, go to the top, get slammed off the top. He has done that at least a couple of 100,000 times, at least 3,000 times, at least, I think. That's a lot of times to do that. But a lot of his matches were just reruns of his earlier matches because he did the same stuff. But Funk would make up something. Whatever was there, he would use. It didn't matter. But Funk's interviews were good. And I liked when he used to do the interviews. He would have the campfire out, and he was talking the dusty roads. It was great. But I think, and when you watched him, like all this talent that I've just named, not only did they perform on TV, they performed in the live events for the fans and more than one has told me, listen, I don't care if there's 10,000 out there or 10. They paid to see a match, and I'm going to give them the match. And they would do that because that's the attitude you had to have. Hell, the 10 people that come to a show, they didn't know they were the only 10. But if they paid their money, they deserved as good a show as you could provide them with. And they did that. And I've heard that a lot of times in wrestling. So anybody, guys, if you're starting out in wrestling, remember, sometimes you get on these little shows, not a lot of people out there, but that's your time to learn. And give them the best show you can. Don't get yourself killed. But go ahead and learn and see what kind of reaction you get from those people. That's how you learn this business. So if you watched any of these guys at all, if you can go back and find some of their matches, emulate them, and I think with all that I've named, I think you got a good start.
So there we go. Then we'll wrap it up with this.
Was that a good list?
No, it's a great list. I'm going to recount it for you. Bobby Heenan, number 10. Roman Reigns, number 9. Number 8, Ole Anderson. Number 7, Sergeant Slaughter. Number 6, Jake the Snake. Number 5, Randy Savage. Number 4, Abdullah the Butcher, because I've mixed them up. Number 3, Roddy Piper. Number 2, Terry Funk. Number 1, Vince McMahon. And let me give you some of the names that we didn't even get to.
Yeah.
There are other ones. Ric Flair, The Rock, Iron Sheik, Honky Tonk Man, Ted DiBiase, Paul Heyman, Bret Hart, Hollywood Hogan, Triple H. I wrote Bret Hart second time. Andre the Giant, CM Punk, Rick Rude, Vader, Raven, Dr. D, Dave Schultz, Edge, Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, The Midnight Express and Jim Cornette, Nick Bockwinkel, Kurt Hennig, JBL, Kurt Angle, The Original Sheik, Don Callis, Chris Jericho, Greg Valentine, Don Morocco, Larry Zbyszko, Eric Bischoff, Tully Blanchard, Yokozuna, Mr. Fuji, Sid, Jesse Ventura, Adrian Adonis, Lou Albano, Kevin Sullivan, Paul Orndorff. I thought Paul Orndorff might make it, Ivan Koloff, Gorgeous George, the original.
Paul Orndorff, he should have made it.
Yeah. Honorable mention for Paul Orndorff.
Honorable mention.
Many of these. Honorable
but there's
mentions,
some names on there I totally disagree with.
Like who? I put Jeff Jarrett down, which you went, what? Why Jeff Jarrett?
He's a good heel.
No.
But Don Callis, why is he there?
Oh, just because he's an AEW, I wanted to have someone fresh, more fresh as a manager. There's a couple more as well. I didn't even write down. Jimmy Hart, the masked superstar. A couple more examples.
Oh, Jimmy Hart he's an honorable mention.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, on that note, we're going to close down the podcast. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. Once again, all the plugs at the beginning, you know those. One email, important questions for dutch@gmail.com. We get so many dozens of emails from you every single week for your questions for the Dirty Dutchman. We appreciate them all. Best ones make it into the scripts every week for Ask Dutch Anything, which is every single Tuesday on YouTube and all podcast platforms. But for now, thank you for joining us. Dutch, we the people.
Let me say something before we close. Guys, if you're going down to if you're going down the street and you see a homeless guy on the street, odds are that he's a veteran. So if you can stop or pass him or somewhere, and if he's just got a bucket out there begging for money, I mean, if you got a few dollars to spend, help him out just a little bit. If you can, just out of the goodness of your heart, help these guys out. So we'll see you next week. And on behalf of James and myself, we the people.